Welcome back to the MPC Data Privacy Summit. We are now going into our second session. In the first, we looked at the future of MPC, what applications we will be using in 5 to 10 years. Now we are going to look at how we are going to get there. First, we have a keynote from Fabio Ricciato from Eurostat, European Commission. Originally an electrical engineer by training, Fabio has quite a bit of experience in building new data applications. You will hear from him how MPC could make it for the public sector. This is followed by a panel discussion moderated by Trine Siil that will focus on how to build an ecosystem to raise the adoption of MPC as a privacy technology. Then we will hear from two more speakers in the lightning talk section. Enjoy.
Thanks to the organizer for inviting me to this MPC Data Privacy Summit and give me the opportunity in this short call to open a window to offer a reflection on the potential role of MPC in official statistics as we currently see it in Eurostat. I will offer, of course, a perspective from the point of view of a potential adopter of MPC technology in a specific application field, that is official statistics. This is itself a special corner of the public sector, of government institutions, which is still a subset of all the potential set of adopters of MPC technology. And I will focus particularly on MPC, given the context of this event. I will not be speaking about other privacy enhancing technologies outside of the MPC arena. So I would like to scope this talk specifically on official statistics as a application domain and MPC as the technology area of concern. Maybe some elements of the discussion will be inspiring, also applicable to other business sector or other angles of corners of the public sectors, but there are elements of specificities that make official statistics, in my opinion, particularly suited for MPC. So let's first set the scene and establish a common terminology. On the bottom level here, you see the typical architecture at high level of an MPC system. You have the input, so-called input parties on one hand, one or more results party or output party at the end of the day. And the goal is to extract the outputs of a predefined computation function f, based on the integration combination of data held by multiple input parties and delivered to the output parties. In between, in MPC, we typically see multiple processing parties and possibly also additional entity with a controller roles. So this is a multi-party setting, both because the data, the input and output information is relevant for different parties, but especially because multiple processing parties are part of the computation process. Now, these are at the bottom level of the logical roles. The role of input party, processing party, of output party are then taken by organizations or institutions. We call them entities. Entities can be a private company, can be a public body. In the specific case of interest for this talk, they are often statistical offices. So we see MPC relevant for official statistics whenever, especially in case where the input data are held by multiple input parties. Otherwise, not fun if all the input data are centralized in a single entity. When at least one among the input or the output or the output party role is taken by a statistical authority, and we have also possible use case where more than one statistical office or statistical authority play a role, but there must be at least one statistical office. Otherwise, we cannot claim to be relevant for official statistics. And I would like to highlight also that an element of a peculiar element of official statistics that may not be there in other business sector is that the function we want to compute, the function f that we want to compute along the process, is typically not a secret. On the contrary, it should be declared, made openly accessible for the sake of methodological transparency. I think this is an element of difference from other business sector or other application in the private domain, where the function f is one of the secret elements that needs to be protected. But this is not the case. In official statistics, what we need to protect is only the input data, not the computation function. And this simplifies a little bit, let's say, the discussion. So, but why do we care? And why do we care now? If we take a bird's eye view of official statistics, we see that it's embedded in a transformation, in a phase of transformation. There's a lot of innovation going on in official statistics, and embedded in this innovation process, there are different trends that all concour to increase the appetite for processing data across organizations. For instance, one of such trends deals with the importance of statistics related to cross-border phenomena, international trade or migration, that by their nature are captured by national statistical office in different countries, and therefore statistics have to be made by taking into consideration data sets held in different countries. Another trend is the growing interest for statistics based on data that are not collected by the statistical office themselves as a survey, traditional survey or census data, but by reusing data, other data sources in the public sector, typically administrative data from administrative bodies. And last but not least, also there is a prospective interest to introduce new statistics, more timely and more informative statistics, reusing data held in the private sector. That requires the integration of so-called big data sets held by different companies, often competitors in the same business sector, and also integrated with data already held by the statistical office. So in all these trends, there is an increasing needs, increasing opportunity for making sense out of data that are held across different institutions. At the same time, there is also an increasing awareness by the public and about the importance of personal data, and increasing expectation that especially personal data, let's say, data protection is scaled up. There's an expectation by the public. There is this expectation also by data protection authorities. We are somehow in this virtual cycle that you see at the bottom of the slides, where as we aim at reusing more detailed data by the people, by the society, we also need to guard against higher level of risk, and therefore we need to introduce and adopt stronger safeguards, MPC being one of those, and in this way increase public trust and public acceptance for the use of this data. Now, whenever we have to perform a computation, statistical computation based on data sets that are held by two or more different institutions, what are the options on the table? The first option is trivially do nothing, abstain from doing that, because maybe the cost and the risk of doing that exceed the prospective benefit, but then we miss the opportunity to deliver important information to the society. Exchange input data between the involved entities as a direct and traditional data sharing. This requires to have a very strong mutual trust relationship between the two entities. The third option is to exchange input data in the traditional way, but with an external trusted third party, if such a trusted third party is available that is sufficiently trusted by all the involved entities. And the fourth option, this is in the focus of this talk, is to resort to some sort of secure MPC solution. I want to be clear that all these four options are fully legitimate, and each of them may be preferred over the other in different contexts. So I'm not claiming here that one option is always superior to the other in all contexts. At the end of the day, the selection, the decision will be made by weighting the benefit of actually performing this computation against the costs and the risk of doing so in one of these, according to one of these options, and whether the costs and risks are actual or perceived, they are in both cases, they come into the equation. So at the end of the day, if you want to make a case for MPC, we have to understand how the cost and the risk of MPC solution compare to those of the other options. And when I say cost and risk, I'm not only including the cost of building an infrastructure or building the IT, but also say the cost of introducing this technology into the organization, the cost of ensuring legal compliance, the cost of having a certain trust model accepted in the institution, and so forth. So we have to understand costs and risks in the widest possible sense. Legal compliance is an important aspect, as we probably all the attendants to this event already know. I'm very well aware that there is a debate in the academic field about whether MPC qualifies as anonymization or not. It's not up to me, not the institution for which I work, to say conclusive word. So, but what I can say is that I can express how we currently consider it, how we currently understand it. In our current understanding, MPC-based solution still qualify as processing of personal data and therefore remain fully within the scope of GDPR. We understand MPC solution as a supplementary technical and organizational measures in the sense of our GDPR Article 89. And this is sufficient for applications in official statistics. This is also in line with some recent recommendation by the EDPB, and also with some report that came out last year from ENISA. We believe that well-designed MPC solution, and when I say well-designed, I would like to put the focus on the strength of the implementation, can be effective means to comply with GDPR, to the point that I would say that that MPC give us the opportunity to embrace the GDPR principles, particularly those related to data minimization, purpose specification, and storage limitations, and to take them as a design requirement for strong MPC solutions. So for us, MPC is aligned to the GDPR. We are not looking at MPC as a way to elude GDPR. That's our current understanding and our current position. A few words about the trust model. Any security technology underlines a trust model. In our opinion, within the trust model, the MPC role is to enforce technologically the governance schemes and the policy for data and for code that have to be explicitly defined at the level of the entity, so of the organizations. So to say, when I refer to MPC solution, I intend a package of policies at the level of entities that are then mapped and implemented and enforced at the technological level by protocols between the input, processing, and output parties. Given that, I think it's important in the design of this package, so policy and protocols at both levels, to avoid any single point of trust. That's the essence of multi-party. If there would be a single point of trust in the process, the whole system will basically reduce to a variant of a trusted third party, probably. Instead, the innovation that MPC brings over the trusted third party paradigm is that we don't need to trust any single entity, but we have to trust the system and collectively the entities that have been assigned the role of processing parties or controllers. And this brings me to an important point, that the overall strength of MPC-based solution is not just the strength of the cryptographic protocol that might be, let's say, a central element, an important element of it, but it's still just an element of the whole construction. The overall strength of MPC solution depends jointly, in our opinion, on the robustness of the policies of the governance schemes at the entity level, on how you choose the entities that take the role of processing party or controllers within the MPC infrastructure, within this cloud that you see at the bottom of the slides, and ultimately on the strength of the technological implementation, whether it's a hardware or software level or possibly at both levels. The strength of a protocol is an important part, but still a part of the strength of MPC solution. So I mentioned before that the trust model assumes that we trust the set of processing parties collectively, not individually. And if one of the other entities, for instance, an input party or both input parties, do not trust even a set of external processing party, they still have the option to play the role of processing party themselves. I would like now to graphically sketch, let's say, the three different paradigms that we are in front of us. So here in these graphics, the ovals represent input and output parties, and you see up there on the left the paradigm of a trusted third party. So the computation happened in the TTP, which is an external entities, and the input and output party have to delegate control of the processing to this external single element, and therefore have to trust that there's a control, that this power of control will not be misused. The innovation that MPC bring is that in a first flavor of MPC at the center, is that the single trusted third party is replaced by a system where there are multiple processing parties, and technology is enforced to harness, let's say, the level of trust. But there is a delegation of control from the input-output parties to a collective set of processing parties. And in a third variant on the bottom, the input-output party themselves act also as a processing party, possibly in addition to other external entities. And in this case, we have completed the transition from delegation of control towards sharing of control with the other involved parties. I think these two variants of MPC, with external processing parties or with processing parties that correspond to input-output parties, are both of interest in different applications. Also because taking the role of a processing party change the trust model. So you have to trust less the other, you have to trust yourself, actually. Also introduce element of complexity, requires more resources to play this additional role, which might not always price that we need to pay. So we think that both these options are legitimate candidates to be used in official statistics. And of course, when we look now on how we design the systems, there are unavoidably, as in any engineered system, some trade-off between costs and risks. As we increase, for instance, the number of processing parties, we bring down the residual risks of collusion or of an external intrusion in all this, the IT of all these processing parties. But at the same time, so we increase the cost, the organizational cost, the operational cost of working with more parties. As we increase the strength of the technological components, be it at hardware and software level, of course, again, we bring down the residual risks of breaches and attacks, but again, we increase the cost of implementation, of hardware resources, of design. Now, the point is that we really don't want to compromise on security, on privacy. So we would like to get the strongest possible MPC solution, is a constraint, with the lowest possible risk and at an affordable cost for the adopters. So what's the way out instead of compromising between cost and risk? Well, we believe that the way out is to join force among potential adopters and consider the possibility to build a shared MPC platform. This is a paradigm, as in the other IT domain, we call MPC as a service. So in this vision, sketched graphically in these slides, you see there is a platform that has been built probably by a consortium of network of public institutions with the help of private sector technology providers that provides functions, primitives, services based on MPC technologies to group of users, a group of input and output parties that may use it on demand. And in this case, they don't need to rebuild the whole infrastructure from scratch, but just configure a particularly MPC transaction or MPC computation instance on top of the services offered by this shared infrastructure. As I said, this would be natural to expect that it's a consortium of network or statistical office in the case of official statistics to take care of building, developing, deploying, and operating this shared infrastructure, teaming up with technology providers. And of course, I think it's important, if we move in this direction, to foresee a consultation with data protection authorities already at the design phase to ensure then legal compliance during the usage phase. As I said before, taking GDPR principle as design requirement, I think, is the mindset that we should have when we design, engineer such a system. And I conclude with the last slide. I'm convinced that MPC solution represents an important, I'd say, alternative to plain direct data sharing in the traditional sense. And I have no doubt that they will play a role in the future of official statistics. The question is not whether, the question is how we make this happen. Because as of today, technology might be already mature, but there are some other factors that slow down adoption on the side of the potential adopters. Organizational cost, for instance. At the end of the day, you're not just buying one box. You are introducing a fundamental paradigm change in how data are used, and this lies at the very heart of the business model of official statistics. So there is a fundamental big change at stake. So it's somehow justifiable that things proceed slow. Also, legal clarity about legal compliance is something that maybe as of today has been maybe slowed down potential adoption. We have identified the concept of a shared MPC as a service platform as a possible way to facilitate and increase and widespread the adoption in the public sector, specifically in official statistics. And we do believe that the role of public users and private providers of technology, the ideal setting will be to have them co-design all-round solutions where protocol technology are co-defined together with policy governance and tailored to the specific needs, not of a specific user, but of specific business sector, official statistics, for what concerns this talk. And with this, I conclude. I thank you for your attention, and for those that are interested to learn more about the activity that we are conducting and that we will be conducting in Eurostat on privacy and NC technologies, the link in this slide provides a starting point. Thanks.